Hello, class. My name is Carrie Zhang. I'm going to be presenting about the scientific method for Dr. Cabralis's biology class. And this is a really important topic in biology because it describes how scientists make new discoveries and they can discover new theories, make hypotheses, and just learn more about this field and make it grow uh, larger. So, why is the scientific method important? As I just mentioned, it's a process of making hypotheses, evaluating predictions that flow from them, and forming conclusions based on the resulting data. So, it helps to advance the field of biology. So the first step is just to observe something you may have questions about. So in this example, you might see that you are growing some plants, and then when you leave the plant near a window, it grows taller. So the next step is to make a hypothesis. So you can come up with a sentence using the word because that explains this observation that you have. For example, the plant near the window grew taller because this type of plant grows best in more direct sunlight. Now you can test the hypothesis for step 3. So make a sentence in the format if then, which is a prediction. And then you will test this prediction with either an experiment or a systematic observation. So here is my prediction or my hypothesis. If this type of plant grows best in direct sunlight, then plants exposed to direct sunlight will grow taller than plants not exposed to direct sunlight if they're in shade or partial shade. So based on the hypothesis that this plant grows best in direct sunlight, then you can predict that if it's left in sunlight, it will grow taller. So now you can design an experiment, and this should give you data that will show whether the prediction is true or false. And it will see if this prediction is true and whether it supports the hypothesis. So for example, you could come up with an experiment that has two types of plants or two groups of plants, one in direct sunlight and one not in direct sunlight. And then a variable is just a term that means the experimental factor you are changing. So if you have two groups, you're going to be changing one factor it's exposed to. And then in this example, it could be how much sunlight they are exposed to. Here's just another definition. So experimental group, it's the group in the experiment that has a certain treatment that has the experimental variable change. And then the control group is the same as the experimental group, but it doesn't have the treatment. So it's like the baseline. So if you see a difference in the two groups, it's probably because of the experimental variable. So here I'm just describing the original example. So if there's two groups of the same plant, they're basically the same, but group A has direct sunlight and group B is in the shade, and they have everything else the same water, same amount of soil. We're testing whether the sunlight exposure makes a difference, and then you can measure the height after 1 month and see what the result is. And in this example, group A grew 5 cm taller. So based on this data, you can say the results support the hypothesis and the plant grows best in direct sunlight. The last step in the scientific method is to report to the scientific community. So if this was an official experiment, you can write an article to report your research. You can publish it in a journal, and this way you can share your results with the community. So overall, the scientific method is very important because it's a systematic, step-by-step process of researching and improving science. Thank you very much, and this is my presentation on the scientific method.